Of all of the henchmen employed by Saddam Hussein to impose his will, few will come close to the cruelty of Ali Hassan al-Majid, better known as Chemical Ali, known for his use of chemical weapons on the Iraqi and Kurdish people. In today's video, we will cover the life of Chemical Ali, his role within Saddam Hussein's regime, and his execution. Ali is understood to have been born in Tikrit in 1941, though the exact date is unknown. Little information is known about his childhood, save for that he was raised as a Sunni Muslim, grew up in a poor tribal community, and received little to no formal education. Ali joined the Iraqi military in 1959 and served both as a motorbike messenger and a driver. Like his cousin Saddam Hussein, Ali was drawn to the Ba'athist Party and of their revolutionary ambitions. When the Ba'ath Party took power in 1968, he was able to secure enlistment as an officer in the Iraqi army. Saddam quickly sought to build a loyal power base within the Ba'athist Party. He turned to his family and fellow tribesmen to ensure their loyalty. Aided by Saddam, Ali was able to secure a position as an aide to the defense minister before securing a role as the head of the Ba'athist government security office. In 1979, Saddam seized power. After claiming his power, Saddam held a conference on the 22nd of July. In this infamous meeting, Saddam read aloud the names of those he had identified as traitors. A fifth column was alleged to be working for a Syrian-backed plot to destabilize Iraq. 69 committee members' names were read aloud. One by one, they were dragged from the hall. 22 of these were sentenced to death, to be executed by those who were spared. Stood behind Saddam while all of this was taking place was Chemical Ali, cementing his place as a close ally to Saddam. However, in a bleak warning, Saddam reportedly told Ali, quote, "What you have done in the past was good, what you will do in the future is good, but there's this one small point. You have been too gentle, too merciful." Ali was then placed as the head of various secret police forces and intelligence services, which were known collectively as the Mukhabarat. These organizations had been built up by Saddam before the takeover and handed to Ali to head. These intelligence services would be used to deal with any potential threat. In 1982, Ali oversaw the collective punishment of the inhabitants of Dujail. Dujail is a town in the Balad district of Iraq. Iranian-backed Shiites attempted an assassination against Saddam as he gave a speech in the town. The presidential motorcade was attacked by a dozen gunmen. They failed, and many of the attackers were captured, followed by the arrest of anyone suspected of supporting the assassins. Men, women, and children were dragged from their homes by Ali's secret forces. Almost 800 people were arrested and detained in the infamous Abu Ghraib prison. They were subjected to torture, and confessions were extracted, with at least 45 people murdered during the interrogations. Around 140 men and women and 10 children were sentenced to death. The town of Dujail was then razed to the ground by Ali's forces. Not a single building or fruit tree was left standing. The town was wiped from the map, and its inhabitants exiled. Chemical Ali would then earn his infamous moniker during the Anfal campaign against the Kurds of northern Iraq. During the Iran-Iraq War, Iranian-backed Kurds rebelled against the Iraqi regime. They had long been oppressed by Saddam's regime in their push for a Kurdish national state. Between February and September of 1988, Chemical Ali launched several assaults on Kurdish forces and civilians. Entire villages were bulldozed, with thousands displaced and murdered. The Iraqi army dropped canisters of deadly gas and nerve agents on the Kurdish people. Mustard gas was widely used. The gassing of civilians during the Anfal campaign was the first recorded instance of a government using chemical weapons against their own people. At Halabja, as many as 5,000 people were killed by chemical weapons. Thousands of Kurdish boys and men were rounded up and driven out to the desert. There they were executed and buried in mass graves. The elderly were left to die in abandoned prisons, and women and children were kept in concentration camps. In the end, between 50 and 100,000 people were killed under the orders of Chemical Ali. His hatred for the Kurdish people was well documented, with recordings taken of his rants. He was quoted as saying, "Why should I continue to let them live like donkeys who don't know anything? and why should we take care of them? No, I will bury them with bulldozers." In one of the taped recordings, Chemical Ali was clear in his disrespect for international law and norms, in particular for the use of chemical weapons. He is quoted as saying, "I will kill them all with chemical weapons. Who is going to say anything? The international community. Fuck them. The international community and those who listen to them." Next was the planned Iraqi invasion of Kuwait. This offered Chemical Ali a chance to redeem himself, as around this time he had fallen out of favour with Saddam. This was because Ali's nephew, Tair Abdul Qadir Suleiman, had become embroiled in a financial scandal. His nephew was publicly denounced, and Chemical Ali was understood to have used his nephew as a scapegoat for his own financial embezzlement. However, despite this, Saddam believed that only Chemical Ali could be trusted to act as a governor in Kuwait. Plans were drawn up as to how much of the country they could take, settling on occupation of Kuwaiti land. It was believed that the Kuwaiti military would offer no resistance, and that the American forces were too far away to stop the invasion. Chemical Ali led the Iraqi army into Kuwait, bringing along some 7,000 members of his security forces to pacify local opposition. After only 6 days, Kuwait was announced as Iraq's 19th province, and Ali was soon appointed as the governor. Ali then set about arresting foreign nationals and Kuwaiti men. By late October, Chemical Ali had ordered the arrests of more than 800 British, European, Australian, American, Japanese and Kuwaiti men. These people were used as human shields. They were held at a number of strategic sites in Iraq and Kuwait. This was done in a bid to deter any international military response. Valuable and rare historical artifacts were looted from Kuwaiti museums and by Ali's men, and they were sent to Iraq. Elements of Kuwaiti culture were destroyed, whilst those who displayed pictures of Kuwait's emir were also arrested. Kuwaitis were banned from wearing beards, and, on Ali's orders, those who disobeyed had their beards plucked out with pliers. Whenever an Iraqi soldier was killed by a Kuwaiti, Chemical Ali ordered that the neighbourhood in which the body was found be razed to the ground. This went on for some time. Iraq occupied Kuwait for around 7 months. That was until an international coalition of nations led by the USA helped to liberate Kuwait. The Iraqi government was quickly defeated. Following the liberation of Kuwait, sent in helicopters to destroy the rebels. Many young Shia men were arrested and were never seen again. After the repression, in what has been described as one of the worst environmental cases of vandalism, Chemical Ali oversaw the draining of the southern Iraqi marshlands. It was drained to rob the guerrilla fighters and opponents of the regime a safe haven. Almost 90% of the marshland was destroyed, robbing almost 200,000 marsh Arabs of their homes and their way of life. During the Iraq War, Chemical Ali was given the responsibility of defending the city of Basra from the invading American forces. Early on into the invasion, Ali was believed to have been killed in an airstrike at a house in southern Iraq. However, on the 17th of August 2003, Chemical Ali was located and captured by American forces. However, there is little to no detail about Chemical Ali's capture on the account of security concerns. Much of what happened remains top secret. In a press briefing, it was hinted that Ali had been orchestrating attacks on American forces. He was then held until his trial. His trial began in August of 2006. He initially refused to enter a plea. All manner of taped evidence was presented to the court. In these tapes, Chemical Ali spoke of the use of chemical weapons and his intentions to kill the Kurds. During the trial, he made his views on the Kurds clear. He expressed no remorse and clearly stated that he gave the orders to destroy the Kurdish villages. On the 24th of June 2007, he was convicted for his crimes against humanity, for genocide, and for the war crimes against the Kurds. His trial would continue, where he was charged and found guilty of further crimes. He was sentenced to death on 8 separate counts, to be hanged as per Iraqi law. On the 17th of January 2010, he was given another death sentence for his role in the Halabja massacre. This was his final trial. On the 25th of January 2010, Ali was hanged. Unlike the hanging of Saddam, there were no jeers or shouts of insults as Ali was hanged. Photos began to circulate, showing Ali in a jumpsuit with a black bag over his head and a noose around his neck. There are those who have criticised the trial of Ali for a lack of fairness and the political influence undermining the process. Some members of the Kurdish community also felt that there was not enough of the government documents and possible secrets of the genocide brought to light by the trial. Ali's trial, however, did open up the possibility for almost 500 other possible criminals responsible for the Anfal campaigns to be brought to justice. Chemical Ali will no doubt remain one of the most infamous members of Saddam's regime. For many in Iraq, his rule and his violent oppression typified the regime. His use of chemical weapons against those who ought to have been his fellow countrymen will remain one of the more disturbing crimes against humanity, and his ominous moniker is a grim reminder of his callous actions.